We know that autoimmunity is increasing. All the indices point to that. Anti-nuclear antibodies is increasing amongst children, and over the last 30 years, research indicates increasing by 300%. We heard from a woman today whose child was 15 months and diagnosed with celiac. There are children even younger that are diagnosed with autoimmune diseases. This is a real tragedy. These children are going to live with this for the rest of their lives. Participating in clinical trials is the best way we have of ensuring their futures, and that includes prevention, that includes treatment, and hopefully one day that includes cures.
It's important for all patients to understand that they might have the option to enter a clinical trial. So why do we do clinical trials? Well, we want to answer questions. The questions are medicines safe and effective? We need to test these new drugs. And sometimes we're trying to find new drugs to add to existing treatments or to replace, or we may be looking at new ways to give the existing drugs. And we might want to compare a new treatment to old ones to see which ones are better or with fewer side effects. So these tend to be the reasons that we do clinical trials.
Usually when we get clinical trials, it's not an uneven population, right? We always have bigger representation with Caucasians and a very less representation with the minorities, the Asians, African Americans, Latinos.
Minoritized groups are woefully underrepresented in clinical trials, and this is a problem. One of the issues is trust, a historical distrust, which is something that we need to address, and there's lots of different ways to improve this. So diversity matters because not everyone is the same, and trials should represent the real world. There are so many different factors, race, ethnicity, gender. Different people respond to medicines differently. We have different genetics, physiology, so our size, our shape, comorbidities. If I have diabetes but Kelly has asthma, well, are we going to respond to the same drug? What about geography? So does the weather affect, does the temperature affect what we're going to do? And there's so many different factors in terms of how our body responds to the drug and how the drug responds to the body.
It's the genetic risk factor and the environmental risk factor taken together, interacting, that probably results in the immune effects that lead to autoimmune diseases. So if we don't have a complete picture of all of these different variables in our analyses from the clinical trial standpoint, we really won't have a good handle on trying to understand fully how these diseases develop and the best way to treat them.
And why should you participate? Well, we want to gain access to new treatments. We want to receive medical care for which some people may not be eligible. So they may receive free care in a clinical trial they may not be eligible for otherwise. You can become part of a new medicine and play an active role in this word that we always use, empowerment. I think it's really nice for people to get involved to help make the medicines that they and other people will ultimately use. And it's something that we should be really grateful for and proud of. So I think research should be available and to all patients, and we need to make sure that all patients feel that they are welcome and valued and included.
I know that it's very scary to go through a clinical trial because you don't know what's going to happen. But if we didn't have trials before, we wouldn't have the treatments that we have today.